So Christmas is well gone. I know, yeah, but I do like my tree, so it's going to stay for another while. And we're coming up to the 1st of February, the festival in Embolic, which the goddess Brigid is celebrated. And she has now become interchangeable with Saint Brigid. And they both women have their stories and mythologies. Growing up on a farm, it was a very exciting time of year. Calves were being born, lambs being born, hens started laying again, and you could really see life coming back into the land, green shoots almost. And of course, a lot of our celebrations were pagan in origin, with the Brat Bride going around in the biddy, and of course, making the cross, which is very important. And to make this, we need to get some rushes. Beautiful day, but as we all know, it could very easily turn snowy, wintry, but we have a nice day. And that's the whole thing about the festival of Embolic at the 1st of February. There is the start of spring. Spring is coming into our minds. So I'm here just out in the wild and I'm getting some rushes. Now there's different rushes and different reeds all over the country, but these are the ones we use in Cork and Kerry. And I'll just show you how to gather them. So rushes grow in wet conditions. They like that, and that is why we use them for the Brigids Cross, is because they're so full of water, they're very easily manipulated, I suppose. So then what you do is you'll see your rushes, try and get them as green as possible. Sometimes they're kind of withered at the top, but these are just perfect here now. And what you do, rather than kind of hold it here, hold it as close to the ground as possible. And just pull it out so you get the whole rush like that. Quite nice to be out in the land again and gathering things. So there we go, we have another one here. You mightn't get them all. Out of 10 you'll get your full rush. But the trick is to go as close to the ground as you can. So now I have my rushes gathered and I'm going to start making the Brigids Cross. Now as a child going to school, I was always fascinated that if it was a Christian cross, why was it never in this shape? Because this would be more in keeping. And I remember asking the teacher and she told me not to be so smart, which I don't really understand. But then I read somewhere, this is the cross we make as the Brigids Cross. And then I read somewhere, and I'm trying to find it so I can link it below in the video, but that this is a solar cross. Because all the arms are equal, it represents the sun. And these arms represent the 4 seasons. And I think once you understand that, it's a lot easier to make, because people learn how to make the Brigids Cross and then they forget again straight away, because it's only once a year you do it. But I think once you understand why it's made, it'll be a lot easier to understand and remember how to do it. So I'm not going to use the rushes straight away to learn how to make the Brigids Cross, because they are quite hard to use. And sometimes you can get lost in the making. So what I'm going to start with are pipe cleaners, coloured pipe cleaners, and it can make things a little bit funky as well, but you'll see when I'm showing you what to do, that it's much easier for somebody the first time, or maybe a group of children, because at the end of the day it's the cross that matters, and the materials. Not everybody can go out and get rushes. You could be living in a desert somewhere, or you might be living in a city. So it's actually the cross, the technique, and what it represents is probably the most important. Made a circle here and plotted out the 4 seasons: Embolic, Brighten, Samhain and Yule. Now you could put so much more into this circle, the zodiac signs, the Celtic trees, the full moons and everything, but I don't want to load it up, because this really is about the 4 directions, or the 4 seasons. So the main thing is to remember it's about the 4 seasons, and you always start with a full one. Pipe cleaners are much easier to use because with the wire, once you bend them, they stay that way. So I'm just going to kind of get the middle there of one. I'm just going to put this across to the Yule. And the next, the yellow, to the Embolic. And you just twist them and bring them down. And you can tighten up the shape later on. So then the pink for Bjaltana, and all the time you're catching the one you've done with the next one. Alright, I'm going to use orange here again. And you can see with the pipe cleaners, once you bend them, they'll stay, because as I say, the rushes, you need practice to work with them. So we've 4 done, and then you just keep going around. It's always good to find the middle first, so you just slip it in. And I think that the Celts must have used this symbol to give hope, because Embolic, or the start of spring, is all about that idea that the milk in the sheep's belly is starting, the fetuses of the calves and the lambs, everything is just about there. It's just like, don't give up hope. So I suppose they're kind of plotting out their year. So as you see, I got carried away and got a few layers done. I think the colours really do add to it. I know there's one here, but you know, this is something very similar. It's just a bit more funky. It'll get children interested in making them as well. So what you do then, same with the rushes, you just tie off the edges. Rubber bands are the best for the rushes, really. I've used wool in I've used pipe cleaners actually. There's your Brigids Cross. You don't have to go so wild with the colours. You can keep them green or brown, or a very kind of cool one here with the blues and the purple. So you can now see the technique. So what I'm going to do is introduce some different materials that could be used, and just taking that a step further. As I say, you just gather the rushes, do the same thing, and you have that. You have the edges there. I use pipe cleaners, wool, but as I say, a rubber band is probably the best. This cross, I've got some nice coloured crepe paper, and I've just cut just some lengths of it and just rolled it to make it that little bit stronger. You can't really be too rough with the crepe paper, you know yourself, it will cut. But I have some goldy paper here which is a little bit stronger, so I'm going to use that as the straight one. And then I'm just going to... So these are more kind of muted colours, even though I have a strong purple. But they're a little bit more natural looking than the pipe cleaners. But as I say, the purple is going to throw it. We'll do the gold down here. When you're starting off, it's much better to use 4 different colours, because you can see if there's any discrepancies along the way a little bit easier. Because even when they're the same colour, you can miss a beat, and the design of the cross just doesn't look right. Other designs to make a cross as well, but I'm just going to stick with this one. Maybe next year show you different kinds. There's tree gold, tree purple, oh there is tree green, and there's tree brown. So just start that. So what I'm going to do with these, I'm going to use some wool or some sellotape just to bind the 4 seasons together. So I also found this really nice wool in Vibes and Scribes with variations on a very natural looking green, and variations in thickness as well. It's a very organic looking wool, and I wanted to use that, of course, but it's too soft to use on its own. So what I did was I got a branch, just a simple Sally branch, a willow branch, which is quite malleable, and you make it into a shape. See, I tie it there, just like one would make a dream catcher if you were making it. And you can kind of, it's not going to be a circle, so don't ever try or ever get disappointed, because you know the branch has its own way of doing it. So there we go. So I tied that up with wool. And I have one I made earlier. And the one, what I used for the first one was actually another branch to give it a bit of stability and stop it from wobbling everywhere. And then 4 pieces of long wool I tied at each of the corners and started weaving how you would do a Brigids Cross. So you can see it has them just again like the natural Brigids Cross. It's got the weave there in it. So it's like a dream catcher. I was thinking what I might, if I probably won't have time to put up in the video, but to decorate it with more glittery thread, beads, feathers and stuff like that, so you could have an Embolic dream catcher. Here we have a totally different array of different crafts made from the same solar Brigids Cross. And I hope you enjoyed and make some yourself. Feel free to post up photos on the Facebook page or leave a comment on the YouTube video as well, or the YouTube video. Thank you.